I'm Burley Doherty, and I wrote Children of Winter. And I set it in a barn just like this. I came with a group of children to write some stories in the barn, and we set out. It was a very cold October day, and we wanted the barn to shelter in so we could write our stories. Oh, it'll make you sneeze. Now just think about anything that's here in the barn that you might want to use in your story. It was very dark, and we could see our shadows on the walls. And the children wrote ghost stories set in the barn. I'd been having sort of ghosty feelings as well during the day about the barn. But you know, I've got a feeling that a long, long time ago somebody did live here and made a home here. I wonder who it could have been. Anybody like to...
Children.
Children? Children like you? Why would they come to live here?
They could be like sheltering from the plague.
Yeah.
Sheltering from the plague?
Their mum and dad could have had the plague and they could have come here.
As soon as she'd said that, it was as if she'd given me a present, and I knew I wanted to write the story. And I went home with my head absolutely fizzing with the idea, and that's where the story of Children of Winter came from. When I was writing Children of Winter, I had in the back of my mind the village of Eyam in Derbyshire. That's Eyam down there. And in 1665, it was struck by an epidemic of the plague. Children of Winter isn't a history book about Eyam. It's fiction, not fact. It's a story that I made up about something that might have happened here at the time of the Great Plague. Although it's a made-up story, there are things in Children of Winter that are very like things that actually happened in Eyam. For instance, just outside Eyam, there's a cluster of graves where Mistress Hancock had to bury all her family because they died in the plague. And that's very like Mistress Hogg's story, isn't it, in Children of Winter?
Mistress Hoggs! 'Tis Catherine Tebbit! What tidings have you, my mother and father?
What care I for thy mother and father? What care I for anyone who lives?
She's in a rage. What ails her?
Why should thou be saved? Tell me that. When all my six have died.
Let's go back, I'm afraid. 'Tis only Maggie Hogg.
Why should the Lord spare thee and take all mine?
It's also a fact that a child was sent away from the village to live out in a hut on the moors and survive the plague. And I didn't know that when I was writing about Tessa and Catherine and Dan. Children of Winter is a story about survival and about how children looked after each other during a terrible time. I decided to set it at the time of the plague, but I could have written about the same theme and set it today and written about refugees, or it could have been about a war.
We asked 3 poets to read Children of Winter, pick out a theme or idea that interested them, and develop it in their own writing.
When I read Children of Winter, I thought one of the most important characters in the story was the barn itself. I've always loved stories about trying to survive, on an island, for example, and I thought that the barn was like an island in the middle of the moors, in the middle of the seasons and the snow and the rain, and that inside the children were playing house, but it was very seriously playing house, making a nest for themselves within the arms of the barn, which was protecting them.
It's good, this barn. It's just like a little house.
People came here a long time ago to shelter in this barn. Children. Just like us.
I've always loved barns. In fact, I live in one myself, converted into a house. I love their stones that come from the very land upon which the barn stands. I love their beams, which come from ancient forests that have largely been cut down from our country. And I love the fact that they really belong within the landscape in which they have settled. In the barn. In the old oak beam is the rustling forest. In the fork of the roof is the pigeon's nest. In the mound of hay is the summer meadow. In the web-winged bat is the flittering shadow. In the fox and the owl are the night bringers. In the gaps between stones are the wind's fingers. In the glittering frost are the cold stars. In the cracks in the roof are silver bars. In the puddle on the floor is the moon's face. In the thawing stream is spring's voice. In the creak of the door is the swallow's cry. In the hole in the shutter is the sun's eye. Well, the first problem was, how would I begin the poem? So I thought about Catherine lying in the darkness, listening to the sounds and looking around her at the barn. And I thought she'd look up at the beam above her and it would remind her of the forest that it used to be. And she would feel the straw surrounding her and she would think about the summer meadows. So I made a great list of things that Catherine would look at and listen to. Some of the things seemed to rhyme already because I had meadow and shadow. And then I found I quite easily got forest and nest. But my very favourite rhyme is night bringers and the wind's fingers. In the old oak beam is the rustling forest. In the fork of the roof is the pigeon's nest. In the mound of hay is the summer meadow. In the web-winged bat is the flittering shadow. In the fox and the owl are the night bringers. In the gaps between stones are the wind's fingers. In the glittering frost are the cold stars. In the cracks in the roof are silver bars. In the puddle on the floor is the moon's face. In the thawing stream is spring's voice. In the creak of the door is the swallow's cry. In the hole in the shutter is the sun's eye.
I really like Burley Doherty's novel, Children of Winter. And looking at it, I was looking for some themes that I might be able to write about. And one of the things that I found most exciting about it, but also really quite scary and alarming, was its use of fear, how it talked about fear among the children who were left in the barn to fend for themselves all that winter of the plague. And there were lots of things they were frightened of. They were frightened of being left alone. They were frightened of freezing. They were frightened of starvation, maybe. And beneath it all, there was the fear of the plague, wasn't there?
What Mother dreaded above all else. Clem's brought plague from the village to our barn.
But that idea of fear is what I used to start me off writing my poem, which I called All of Us.
All of us are afraid, more often than we tell. There are times we cling like mussels to the seawall and pray that the pounding waves won't smash our shell. There are times we hear nothing but the sound of our loneliness, like a cracked bell from fields far away where the trees are in icy shade. Oh, many a time in the night time and in the day, more often than we say, we are afraid. If people say they are never frightened, I don't believe them. If people say they are frightened, I want to retrieve them from that dark, shivering haunt where they don't want to be, nor I. Let's make of ourselves, therefore, an enormous sky over whatever we most hold dear, and we'll comfort each other's fear.
I read through the book, and I know that Burley's a poet as well as a novelist, so I wanted to get to the bits in the book that were like bits of poems to me. And I found that light was very important in the book. There's bits about candles, when the children have the candles in the barn. There's bits about it going dark and being frightening. There's bits about it getting light. There's bits about the snow and the light reflecting on the snow.
Dad! Dad!
I went through the book just underlining the bits to do with light. The sky was white by now. I underlined that because I thought, yes, that's got a lovely phrase to it, a lovely ring to it. These candles are precious. That's got a nice rhythm to it. And I found a wonderful phrase on page 29. She lay listening to the light breathing of her brother and sister. And I took that and just underlined listening to the light breathing. And I know that's not really about light, it's about light breathing, but I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the light in this poem could breathe, could go in and out and back and forth. Once I'd underlined all the phrases to do with light, I wrote them down. I just wrote down the phrases, and as you can see, I started writing them in a very neat hand, and then as I got excited, it went faster and faster, because what I was creating was a found poem. A found poem is where you don't make up your own phrases, you borrow phrases from somewhere else. You take the phrases out of a book, or another poem, or an article. It's a very good way of writing poems and making new poems. I wrote them down. I wanted to get the idea of it being a performance poem. Then it struck me that a lot of this book is about the past reflecting the present, and the present being an echo of the past. So I wanted to get this idea of echo. So I wrote down a phrase like, these candles are precious, and then put an echo of that in, candles are precious. And then she lit another candle, then lit another candle. And I had this idea of one voice and a chorus and some kind of procession or chant. So it becomes like a kind of a story almost about going from darkness into light, which I think is what the book does. Children of winter, these candles are precious.
Candles are precious.
She lit another candle.
Lit another candle.
How bright his eyes were.
Bright his eyes were.
Children of winter, the dark sky was spiked with stars.
Dark sky was spiked with stars.
The glow of the fire.
Glow of the fire.
The black gleam of the river.
Black gleam of the river.
Children of winter, kind light of the fluttering candle.
Light of the fluttering candle.
Candle flame shadows on the ceiling.
Flame shadows on the ceiling.
The sky was white by now.
Sky was white by now.
Children of winter. The light moved towards them.
Light moved towards them.
A square of white linen.
Square of white linen.
And after the snowfall came sunshine.
After the snowfall came sunshine.
Children of winter.
Listening to the light breathing. Listening to the light.
Listen to the light. Listen to the breathing. Listen to the breath. Listen. Listening to the light breathing.
Children of winter.
So other people have seen lots of different themes in the book. Now it's your turn. Maybe you'd like to write in your own way about any of the themes or ideas that have interested you in the story. Which threads would you pick up?